Everyone is talking about how the Buffalo Bills will, without a doubt, no questions asked, they will get worse. They will regress. Their window is closed, shut. Throw away the key. The Buffalo Bills have no shot at winning a Super Bowl in 2023. And I sit here and I say, not so fast. The Buffalo Bills are not done yet. Has anyone actually looked at how good their roster is? Has anyone actually spent time and gone through their depth chart, looked at their offseason moves, who departed, who arrived? Oh, that's right. I have. And I'm here to tell you, Bills Mafia, don't sweat it, man. These people don't know what they're talking about. They have absolutely no clue. The Buffalo Bills are not going to regress. In fact, the Buffalo Bills might be better than ever. I understand 2022, it didn't end well. We have a bad taste in our mouths after how the Bills season ended last year. And we do not want to admit that the team could actually be better this year, because after we see that team fail, the team that we all said Super Bowl favorites, Vegas had them propped up as the number one team going into the season. Everybody after the opener, when they kicked the Rams' booty, everyone said, oh, automatic Super Bowl. Could this team go undefeated? How good are they? They're insane. Von Miller this, Josh Allen that, Stephon Diggs. But at the end of the day, it was a disappointing season. It was full of traumatizing moments and traumatizing performances. But at the end of the day, when you really study the 2022 Buffalo Bills, this team was damn good. Okay, this team last year, by every metric, was one of the elite teams in football, if not the best team in football during the regular season last year. Let's just go through it. Second in points for, second in points against, first in total offensive DVOA, second in DVOA offensively, first in special teams DVOA, fourth in defensive DVOA. That's pretty darn good. That is extremely well-rounded. And I would argue, when I look at all these metrics, it's the best overall team that we saw last regular season. Then you throw in a 13-3 record where all three of the games were lost by one score. And in all three of their losses during the regular season, they outgained the opponent. The Vikings, the Jets, the Dolphins. They lost those three games, but they outgained those three teams in the losses. So even in their losses, they were still a dominant football team. And you're probably sitting there saying, Mitch, if they were so good, why didn't they do anything in the playoffs? Why does this team continue to disappoint? How did they not go to the Super Bowl and win? Well, a lot happened, guys, but the biggest thing that I can bring up is truly something that we didn't know would happen. It was shocking, and it shook the NFL to its core. Now, the Damar Hamlin incident was tragic. It was heartbreaking for you, for me, for every NFL fan. Now imagine how tragic it might have been if you knew the person, if you were a teammate with that player, if you spent every day and most of your hours with that player. Imagine how mentally exhausted, physically exhausted you would be for the rest of your football season. A lot of people wouldn't even be able to play football. It would take them out of their life. That happened to the Buffalo Bills, and it shook the Bills to their core. And really, you could see a difference in their play after that incident. You really could. They didn't appear to be the same team. But if you do not want to talk about that, we can look at other factors that also hindered the Buffalo Bills in 2022. Because I believe we need to look at what happened before to understand the future, understand the progression, understand why I say they can be better than ever. Because without understanding history, you can't understand the future. You can't understand where they actually got better. So let's talk about Josh Allen. Josh Allen, one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. I think for most people would rank third in the NFL. Last year, I thought he was arguably the best quarterback in the sport. That is 2021. 2020, he had another argument for that as well. Josh Allen is up there. He is awesome. He is a specimen. He is a great quarterback, a great leader, a great athlete. But he got hurt last year. A lot of people kind of forget that this happened. But if you watch Josh Allen before the injury and you watch Josh Allen after the injury, there is certainly something to be said about the injury that Josh Allen suffered last season. Josh Allen played half the season with a partially torn UCL in his right elbow. Not his left elbow, his right elbow. Why is that important? He's a thrower with his right arm. What does everybody talk about with Josh Allen? His cannon for an arm. He has the strongest arm in football, without debate. You hinder that aspect of his game, it's going to hurt him, it's going to hurt the team. I mean, just the pain of it, constantly having to throw with a partially torn elbow, having to practice, or maybe not practicing, resting because of the elbow. There's so many things that went into Josh Allen's maybe dip in performance, rise in turnovers that everyone saw. Everyone's like, why is Josh Allen throwing an interception? Maybe because he's got a partially torn elbow. But he's all good now. He's dating an Avenger, so we're all good. All right, good for you, Josh, by the way. Von Miller got hurt. Pretty big piece to why they were so successful in the first half of that season. He got injured. He's expected to be back this season. Michael Hyde, one of their leaders, one of their best players, got injured. Jordan Poyer missed games. This team dealt with some stuff, including Damar Hamlin, on their minds. This team had a tough go of it in 2022. But why do I believe in 2023 they're going to be that much better? Well, it all starts with the guys protecting Josh Allen. Because Buffalo clearly had a plan this offseason, and part of their plan was to get tougher, to get more physical, to get grittier. Because when we watched that Bengals game, I mean, I was so embarrassed about that game. I'm a Patriots fan. I ranted about how the Bills should be embarrassed by their performance because I was so embarrassed of their lack of physicality in the game versus the Bengals from an offensive and defensive line standpoint, especially considering the Bengals were missing about half their offensive line in that football game. What do the Bills do? Well, they go out and they improve their offensive line. They don't just bring in one player. They don't just bring in two players. They actually bring in 5. I'm not kidding you. 5 premier names, rather free agents or draft picks that can help this team, rather in terms of depth or starters on the offensive line to help protect Josh Allen, to help bring a toughness, a grittiness, a power to the running game and to their team. It begins with, I think, the biggest area of weakness, which is the guard position from a year ago. You look back at the old man, Roger Saffold, who was absolutely dreadful for Buffalo last year. I believe he ranked 72nd for Pro Football Focus at the guard position last season. And clearly, not only is he older, but just was not a fit for what the Bills wanted to do up front. Coming from the Tennessee Titans, a big power running game. You know, he just did not fit, especially in the pass blocking department, what the Bills needed. So what did they do? They didn't go out and spend big money. They actually went out and spent it on a couple like low-key free agents and a big draft pick in the second round in Osiris Torrance out of Florida. Now, this guy is a big, powerful, run-blocking, good athlete, like a young Roger Saffold. That's essentially what this guy is. Now you have David Edwards out of Los Angeles. He's an underrated player. He didn't play as much last year, but he did rank very highly as a run blocker for the LA Rams last year. He's played primarily in that Sean McVay zone scheme. And in 2021 and 2020, back-to-back seasons there, he was very good. He ranked as a top 30 guard in all of football in both seasons. I believe in one season he ranked in the top 22 out of all guards according to PFF's grading. Another guard they brought in was Connor McGovern. This was a more substantial contract. Connor McGovern is a little bit of a one-trick pony. He isn't a very good run blocker, but he's an excellent pass blocker. He graded as a top 13 pass blocker in the entire sport last year for the Dallas Cowboys. McGovern and Edwards seem to fit the zone blocking mold more than Torrance does. Torrance seems more like a power guy to me, but either way, they should find a solution on the interior between those three guys, along with all the other players they already have, and that just provides a layer of depth to protect Josh Allen. Not only did they bring in offensive linemen, but they brought in a guy that I'm very familiar with in Damian Harris. You might be familiar with him as well for his style of running. He is powerful. He is a downhill, no-nonsense runner. He breaks a ton of tackles, and he's a very efficient runner. When Damian Harris sees a hole, he's going to make the most of that carry. He's very rarely going to be stopped for a loss, a negative gain, or he's usually going to be able to break one tackle, make one guy miss. He's a very good ball carrier. The only issue I had with Damian Harris in his time with New England is his injury history. At times he can miss some games. Then also he is a little bit limited as a receiver, but I'd expect Buffalo to maybe use him a little bit more in that aspect. I just feel like his role was limited in New England. But in the cold weather games in December and January, this guy has experience carrying the ball a ton, including that game where New England and Buffalo played in that snowy blizzard game in 2021. He was a big reason they won that game, New England. He had a breakaway run for a touchdown, I believe. Damian Harris knows how to play in that weather. He knows how to protect the ball. He's rarely going to fumble, and he's very good in short yardage and goal lining situations. James Cook, another guy who is a second-year player who you would think will take a jump, especially a running back who coming into the NFL was a little small, lacking weight on his frame, going to gain some bulk, come into year two, and be able to take more contact and hits and be able to break more tackles. James Cook could be a guy that gets a lot better. Another one is Shakir. Shakir I was very impressed with in the preseason, and as the season wore on last year, he started to gain a little bit more chemistry, rapport with Josh Allen, and I do think he could play a pretty significant role as their slot receiver this season, seeing as how, yeah, they brought in Dalton Kincaid, Dawson Knox they still have, so their their slot receiver position isn't going to be as involved, but still, the guy, as a shifty, quick guy, provides a matchup that I think in year two, he could get even better understanding the NFL and gaining some rapport with his quarterback. And then we talk about Dalton Kincaid as a complimentary option, as a first-round target. He's one of the slickest, savviest tight ends I've seen come out of the draft in a long time. Very good athlete, very good after the catch. I think he's going to be able to maximize some of those plays that you kind of missed Cole Beasley last year. You know, Cole Beasley, he came back eventually, but not the same player. Like a few years ago, he was just lighting it up for you guys with just his ability to win in the middle of the field, his understanding of zone coverage. I think Kincaid's going to do something very similar. I could see him eating a lot of targets in the middle of the field and picking up yards from there. Dawson Knox also has the speed to get vertical, which is going to open up some space for him underneath. Obviously, everyone's going to be keyed on Stephon Diggs. So can Shakir, can Gabe Davis, can Knox, and now Kincaid eat underneath, James Cook included. And that brings me to the scheme, the system, the OC. Ken Dorsey had his first year as the play caller last year. So he was taking over for arguably the best play caller in football, you know, the previous season in Brian Daboll, who proven in New York. The guy can really whisper to a quarterback and get the job done with Daniel Jones. That guy is a great play caller, right? One of the best in football. So Ken Dorsey had a lot to really overcome and big shoes to fill. And I think now in year 2, you can take everything that happened in year 1 with Josh Allen, have a better understanding of your relationship, have a better understanding, if you're Ken Dorsey, what Josh likes, what Josh doesn't like, what Josh does well, what we want to stick with, what we want to evolve, what we want to get rid of. As a play caller and as a quarterback play caller relationship, you only get better with time. You know, I saw this firsthand with Josh McDaniels and Tom Brady. You know, these two guys, just their knowledge of history and the history together to recall certain plays and moments from different games and be able to piece together things in a game plan. That's what you're going to get in year 2 with Dorsey, with Josh Allen. The ability to have recall, but the ability to understand each other, the nuances, the situations of how Josh plays. Dorsey's going to pick up on those things, and I think he'll be a better play caller in year 2 as well. Some low-key additions that the Bills did make on defense, I think are going to make all of the difference. Yes, they lost Tremaine Edmunds, and a lot of people are going to look at that, but personally, I feel like the Bears paid Tremaine Edmunds for his potential and not necessarily his worth or his production so far in his career. I think he's been a good player for the Bills, but not a great player for the Bills. Taylor Rapp is a player that I really like. Now, Taylor Rapp is a safety from the Los Angeles Rams. But if you watch Taylor Rapp, even watch his highlights, a lot of his highlights come from within the box. And I think this guy is going to play a key role in the box alongside Matt Milano in coverage and be able to make up some ground that maybe Edmunds, as a bigger bodied linebacker, couldn't against these quick, fast, throw over the middle type of teams in the NFL. He's also a very sound tackler, and I think he's a very savvy playmaker in the middle of the field is Taylor Rapp. The other addition that I think is extremely underrated is Poona Ford. They just continued to add to their defensive line this year. A lot of the same names remain. Jordan Phillips is back, Shaq Lawson, Ed Oliver, Daquan Jones, Von Miller, Gregory Rousseau, of course, who's a big potential breakout player. But Poona Ford is still pretty young, and Seattle changed their system last year. I think this is a guy that could be really good for Buffalo because he's going to return to a similar system that he played in Seattle when he was like a top 30 D tackle in the NFL, grading as such in previous seasons. So that was a really savvy pickup, I thought, by the Buffalo Bills. Overall, man, when you look at this roster, you look at the depth of the roster from the defensive line to the secondary, the offensive line to the receiving core. Everything about it, to me, is improved. As long as these older players like Micah Hyde, Jordan Poyer, Von Miller on defense can continue to play at a high level, I see no reason to expect the Buffalo Bills to fall off, to regress, or to not be a contender. You also talk about Tre'Davious White, coming off of a year from injury where he had to miss some games. He's going to be healthier. Elam in his second season could potentially have a sophomore breakout as the cornerback there. There's a lot to like about the Bills as well that a lot of people are overlooking, like the addition of Dalton Kincaid, like the depth of the offensive line, like additions of Poona Ford and Taylor Rapp, or Josh Allen being injured and not being injured any longer. Or maybe the Ken Dorsey-Josh Allen relationship. Like, you throw out all these different aspects that people are just not talking about. And I truly do believe that the Buffalo Bills are going to be better than they were last year. I don't know if their record will be the same. Their division is harder. The conference is tougher. But overall, I think this team, by the end of the season, is going to be as legit as they've ever been to make a run, assuming health. Thank you guys for watching this video. If you enjoyed, don't forget to Gronk spike the like button and subscribe for more NFL just like this. It's Mitch. Peace.